Hello there, and welcome back to the Scroll Here YouTube channel, and today I'm going to be looking at the teams that should possibly be a bit concerned about their transfer window so far. If you like the sound of this video, please do like it and subscribe if you're new around here. Hit that notification bell and you'll get all notifications to my videos. So, let's get started. Now, we're going to kick things off with Bournemouth, who so far have only brought in two players, one from Sheffield United and the other being from Leganes. Now, the thing with Bournemouth is they cannot afford to stand still in the transfer window. They've got a brilliant manager in Eddie Howe. He's a great tactician and a good lover of football. Not saying that anybody else isn't a good lover of football, but he is a brilliant young manager. And he's got a good team. He's got an okay team. Good at best. But with Bournemouth, you saw last season that they started to struggle quite a little bit. They were able to put themselves up against Manchester City at one point. I think Man City ended up winning against them in the end. I think it was 2-1. But they've got some good results here and there. The problem with Bournemouth is even the teams that were coming up from the Championship are not standing about and they are not messing around, especially Wolves and Fulham. They're doing some brilliant business between them. Cardiff, a little bit questionable. Bournemouth have been in the Premier League for a fair few seasons now. They need to actually reinforce their team very well. Having a look at my list here, 10 plus players. They've let go of these players. Now, some of these players may have been fringe players, they may not have been, but at the end of the day, they've got some talented players in there already. They need to supplement it much better. If they're wanting to either, are they wanting to go on cup runs? I'm not sure. But they definitely don't want to be fighting relegation. At the moment, with the business they've brought in, they've not brought in any notable names. Diego Rico from Leganes, David Brooks from Sheffield United. They need to strengthen much more if they want to actually have a good presence in the Premier League and if they want to stay away from relegation. At the moment, they are one of my teams to be in the relegation battle, possibly relegated. They need to actually strengthen. Where do they need to strengthen? Maybe that's where you guys can come in, because I'm not entirely sure. But at the moment, they've got a good team. They can't stand still. Sticking with the letter B, Burnley are my other concern. Burnley had a great season last year. They finished 7th. They were challenging Arsenal. If they'd have got a result over Arsenal last season, there was a chance that they may have actually been able to take over Arsenal and be in 6th position. But I think they've actually got a Europa League campaign. I don't know whether they're qualifying or not right now. But at the end of the day, they haven't signed anybody. They've let a few people go, but they haven't signed anybody. Sean Dyche doesn't seem to be concerned. He says that he's okay. Things will happen when they happen, sort of thing. Again, it's similar to Bournemouth. You can't afford to stand still. You had a great season last season. For Burnley, they had a brilliant season, smashed it. But Nick Pope is injured with a shoulder injury right now. Is Tom Heaton ready to step back in? Who knows? At the end of the day, they haven't brought anybody in. They've got to strengthen. They have to strengthen. They had a good defence, good goalkeeper last season. They were okay going forward. They weren't smashing teams. Not that they should be at their level, but when you're finishing 7th in the Premier League, people are all of a sudden expectations, whether it's Burnley fans' expectations or not, you're going to hear pundits, media, everything like that. You finish 7th, you've got to start matching that. And if you're not matching that, then people will start to look at Burnley and be like, oh, they're not going to make it, are they? At the moment, with the strength of how Burnley played last season, they're not one of my relegation candidates. But I don't see them finishing in the top half if they don't make signings. They desperately, in my opinion, need to make some good signings. They had a good season last season. They've got no reason why they can't attract players. Cardiff are a team that are coming up, but again, they are a team that they've made some signings. But they've not made notable signings. Not signings, in my opinion, that are going to give them the strength they need in the Premier League. They've made some signings, I think, from the Championship. I'm not sure where QPR or Preston are, what league they're in. But even so, they've not made the best signings, in my opinion. They're not making signings. It's a little bit like last time Cardiff were in the Premier League. They're not making signings that make me think they're going to be okay in the Premier League. At the moment, they're one of my relegation candidates purely because they're not making Premier League signings. They're not making Premier League player signings. They're not making signings. These signings could come in and absolutely smash it, and I could be totally wrong. But in my opinion, when you look at the likes of Fulham and you're looking at Wolves and how they've strengthened when they're coming up, they're taking it seriously. Right now, it doesn't look like Cardiff are. It doesn't look like they're learning their lessons, and they need to take it a bit more seriously, in my opinion. They need to make some signings. Again, it's a lot about standing still and hoping that you're going to be all right. You can't hope at this level. It doesn't happen in the Premier League. Crystal Palace right now have only brought in one player. His name is Vicente Guaita from Getafe. Other than that, they've got concerns of whether they're going to be able to keep hold of Wilfried Zaha, with Tottenham apparently wanting to put a bid in, a couple of teams possibly wanting to put a bid in for him. He's a talented guy and he had a good season for Crystal Palace last year. Crystal Palace can't afford to lose that type of player without being able to replace him, and if you can't replace him, then you're going to have to supplement your squad with as many, not equally talented, because Zaha is quite a talented player, but you're going to have to bring in players that can strengthen your squad to cope with the loss of him. With someone like Benteke also not firing at Crystal Palace, they need to bring in someone that can actually get them the goals they need. They struggled a lot last season when they first started. Roy Hodgson comes in, steadies the ship defensively. Now they need to actually go forward and get those forward players. If you bring in forward players, people that can get on the end of things that Zaha is creating, or help him be creative and score goals as well, you've got more of a chance of keeping him. Whereas if you don't supplement your squad and it comes to like the final week of the transfer window, there's more of a chance of your star player walking. Johan Cabaye has already been allowed to leave to a team called Al Nassr. Don't know where that is, but again, do they need to bring someone in centre of the park? I think so. Centre of the park and a striker. Will they do it? I don't know. Again, if they don't strengthen, even with that defensive solidity that Roy Hodgson gave them, they could be again in a battle for relegation. Everton may have smashed their transfer record with bringing in Richarlison from Watford, but they haven't brought anybody else in. They've let a fair few players go. Wayne Rooney's gone over to America. Davy Klaassen has gone over to the Bundesliga. They've let a fair few players go. Joel Robles, again, Real Betis, they've let a centre-back go in Funes Mori as well. You look, Everton are wanting to be that top six team. They're wanting to be in the top six like they were under Roberto Martinez. They're wanting to be back in that conversation, but they've never replaced Romelu Lukaku. You can't, whatever anybody thinks about Lukaku, the guy scores 20 plus goals a season. You can't easily replace that, and they haven't replaced it so far. You can bring in someone like Richarlison, who is a brilliant prospect. He's a young lad and he's got room to grow. How much room he gets now, because he's priced at 50 million, I don't know. There's going to be a lot of expectation on him to deliver this season. He hit the ground running with Watford and then tailed off pretty quickly after that. But still a talented lad who's going to have the weight of the world on his shoulders now at Everton. People are going to be looking at him, Everton fans, media, everything like that. If they don't bring in anybody else of that sort of calibre, if they don't bring in a good calibre striker, or are they going to pin all their hopes on like a Calvert-Lewin? Are they going to do that? Put all the hopes on him. They haven't got a Rooney to fall back on now. Everton, you're not going to be in a relegation battle, but it's concerning with where you meant to be going with this financial backing that you've got. You want to be a top six team, but you don't have the quality in the team to actually be there. So that would be a concern if I was an Everton fan. You brought in a talented youngster, but you haven't brought in anybody else. They need to bring in some more players. Manchester United fans. Now this one obviously seems like they are very concerned about the type of signings that they're bringing in. They've been quoted, or a lot of people were rumoured, like Man United fans were rumoured that they were in for the likes of Alexandro from Juventus, and they were in for Milinkovic-Savic from Lazio, who had a great season last season as well. If they were to get both of those signings alongside the fact that they've got Fred as well, then that's not a bad window at all. That's a positive window. They're supplementing their team and they're getting the players that they want. They want to be able to unlock Paul Pogba. This could be a way of doing it. Get Milinkovic-Savic, brilliant player. Get a left back like Alexandro, solves your left back problems completely, and it makes that back four much more solid. They've had a pretty good defence so far. They've had one of the best defences in the league since Mourinho took over. Now that will only make it better, and it will become much more of an attacking outlet with Alexandro. But if they don't make these signings, which for some Man United fans, what you hear is that they think that it's increasingly unlikely they're going to make these signings, then with bringing in only Diogo Dalot from Porto, Shakhtar Donetsk, they brought Fred, and they brought Lee Grant from Stoke, questions are going to be asked of whether, how are they going to progress? How are they going to fill the holes, and how are they going to close that point gap between them and Manchester City last season? That would be the biggest concerns for Man United fans right now. They don't feel that they've made the signings they need, and they're going to be short on players with the likes of Paul Pogba, Lukaku and that going as deep as they could into the World Cup. They're going to be missing key players for quite a while. So they're going to be questions about fitness at the start of the season. They're not going to have brought in players to strengthen them. They are concerned, and maybe rightfully so. I think top four would be a definite given for Man United, but they're going to be wanting to close that gap to City, and right now they don't look close to doing that. Tottenham should also be a little bit concerned that they've done absolutely no business apart from 2 people leaving. Tottenham are a good team. They finished 3rd last season. They are a very, very solid team. They score goals when they've got Harry Kane fit. He's dynamite. He is going to be a very good goal scorer for them always. He will always perform. But they don't necessarily, do they have the supporting cast for the amount of competitions that they're in, Champions League, domestic cups and the Premier League? There's 4 different competitions right there. Do they have it in them to be able to compete on all of these fronts, keep all of the players happy? Do they have a good enough supporting cast to say if Harry Kane gets injured? He seems to get injured maybe once a season, but when he is injured, who do you bring in? Fernando Llorente isn't that man. He's not that man. And it's very difficult to have someone to come in and emulate Harry Kane. It's going to be nigh and impossible. You know, it'd be like trying to get Harry Kane. You know, he'd probably be the best thing or the closest thing to Alan Shearer since Alan Shearer. They don't come along very often. And the same would go for the rest of the team. Heung-min Son, brilliant player. Can he be replaced? Probably not. Eriksen, Dele Alli, when these guys are firing, they are absolutely brilliant. But can they be replaced when they're injured or when they're out of form? Not really. And if they don't do any business while they've got the new stadium and everything like that, that's fair enough. But if they don't do any business, could this be a season where they perhaps falter and Champions League places become much more of a challenge for them? Never mind actually competing in the Champions League and domestic trophies. I'm not entirely sure. I think they do need to strengthen. I think everybody needs to strengthen. But the big teams in the top 6 definitely need to strengthen. Next up, we've got Chelsea. And Chelsea obviously being the big team that they are, they've had a bit of a transition. They brought in Maurizio Sarri, he's taken over from Antonio Conte, and he's brought with him Jorginho from Napoli and brought in Rob Green on a free as well. Can't remember where he came from, but yeah. So they brought in 2 players. They've got a cast list of those that they've let go out on loan and released and everything like that as well. So, but for me, if I'm looking at Chelsea, the one thing that they were really missing last year, they kind of got it a little bit with Olivier Giroud. They got a different outlet with Giroud, but he's apparently subject of Atletico Madrid's interest, is having that person up front. Alvaro Morata doesn't look like he's that man, and Chelsea fans, I think, have lost confidence in him. Maybe even the Chelsea, football club have lost confidence in him as well. They've apparently named a price of 62 million for AC Milan to come in and buy him. But if they don't get rid of him, they probably won't bring in another striker unless Giroud goes. So if either of those things don't happen and they're going into the season with Morata, depending on what happens with Eden Hazard and Courtois as well, I think that could be the only thing that might hinder Chelsea, is having that proper, not necessarily a target man, but having a good striker who's going to get those goals that they feel they haven't had since Drogba, and that's fair enough. He was a very good striker for Chelsea. He's a Chelsea legend. But this could all be completely different because Sarri plays in a completely different way to Antonio Conte. He wants to play a passing football, exciting football, and this could be completely different. Jorginho coming in could change the entire way that they play, set those passing moves off, and it could again open things up for Alvaro Morata. Things could happen like that, and maybe they don't need to bring in a striker. But that would be my only concern if I was Chelsea right now, is that you've got possibly 2 big players possibly leaving, Eden Hazard, Thibaut Courtois, no one knows if they're going or not, and then maybe a striker. No one seems to have confidence in Alvaro Morata. Could he go? Maybe. And if he does go, that leaves room for another striker. Maybe they can bring in someone else. I don't know. Do they have any confidence in Michy Batshuayi? I don't think so. I don't think they've got that confidence in him yet. So that, again, only concerns there. Again, I don't think they're going to drop out the top. Well, actually, they dropped out the top 4 last season. So they've got to be trying to get back in that top 4. Whether they do or not remains to be seen. And my final concern would probably be a strange one for most, but it would be Manchester City. Manchester City have brought in Claudio Gomez from PSG and Riyad Mahrez from Leicester, and that's it. And while Man City have very, very few holes that have been exposed, they were exposed by the likes of Liverpool, they were exposed by other teams as well. I can't exactly remember who. So I can't remember if it was Huddersfield or Brighton. I'm not entirely sure. There was a lower league team. There was in a cup game as well, like one of the cup competitions they were in. They got beaten by a lower league team as well. It's one of those things. They have very, very few holes. They've got a very, very strong squad. But I'm looking at likes of maybe Fernandinho, not getting any younger, and eventually those legs will go. He is an absolute linchpin to Manchester City in the way that they play. From linking the defence to the midfield, he is key to that. He is absolutely key to that. When they're out of possession, which is very rare, he will drop in to that back four or the back three and make it a back four if they're playing with the three centre-backs. He will drop in there and he's very key. He'll get the ball back and he gets it into the midfield, which then can set off an attack. He is key at doing that sort of role, and maybe that's what they thought they were going to get with Jorginho. But obviously he went to Chelsea, and that's another team anyway. But maybe that is a concerning issue that they could have this season. It could get found out. What are they going to be like? They've spent a lot of money on centre-backs, and Vincent Kompany, injury issues, things like that. Whenever Vincent Kompany gets injured, he's not out for a short time. He seems to be out for quite a lengthy spell. That could be something that comes back to bite them as well if they don't strengthen there. They don't need to strengthen a lot. They maybe only need to bring in a player or two, maybe like another defender and a central midfielder that can compete or at least go alongside Fernandinho, because at the moment I don't think that they have that person that could take that role. And as I said, Fernandinho's not getting any younger. Eventually those legs will go, and whether it's this season or the season after, they do need to replace that. That would be my only concern if I was a Manchester City fan. Otherwise, I mean, you're champions, you smashed it last year, so not many concerns. Those are just my thoughts on what I think of the transfer window so far. For those that are, concerning, maybe still need to do some business, and hopefully trying to come across as unbiased as possible. That is just my thoughts right now. I hope you've enjoyed the video. If you've got any thoughts, whether you're from any of the clubs that I've talked about, get the comments in below. Let me know it. Let me know what you think. What do you think of how's your club done in this transfer window? Let me know it in the comments below. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you have enjoyed it, please do like it and subscribe if you are new around here. Thank you once again. I'll catch you later.